Imagine standing in front of an auditorium full of your biggest fans.
Right, like showing off your life's work.
Yeah, exactly. You're showing off your life's work, and you accidentally broadcast this live, chaotic argument where your own team realizes your product is just, well, fundamentally broken.
It's the ultimate nightmare scenario,
It
honestly.
really is, and that is exactly the audio file we are dissecting today. So welcome to the deep dive. We're examining this brief, accidentally leaked transcript from a screen recording file. It's titled Screen Recording 2060427125653 fanbase.mp4.
And what we have in our hands here is just this incredible piece of raw, unfiltered audio.
Yeah, totally raw.
It's a software development team caught in the exact moment of feature breaks. It just completely strips away that illusion that our technology is, born perfect right out of the digital ether.
Okay, let's unpack this because to really grasp what is happening here, you have to picture the environment they're in.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to think of app development as this sterile laboratory full of people quietly typing away at their desks.
Right, the hacker in the hoodie typing perfectly green code.
Exactly. But functionally, it is much closer to like laying down train tracks while the train is already moving. The train is the app on your phone, and you, the user, expect a smooth ride.
Of course.
But out ahead of you, the development team is frantically hammering spikes, arguing over who forgot the blueprints, and occasionally dropping a massive piece of steel on their foot.
That is a very accurate description of agile development, honestly.
Right. So every flawless app you use is secretly held together by these frantic behind-the-scenes conversations, exactly like the one we're about to explore. And today, you and I get to be a fly on the wall.
We do. And to understand the chaos of this leak, we first have to establish the technical crisis the team is facing in this recording.
So what exactly are they doing when the audio starts?
Well, they are dealing with a classic software dilemma, the old versus new comparison. The team is right in the thick of quality assurance testing, and they're focusing on a very specific user action, which is attempting to join a quote-unquote room.
Yeah, and we hear in the audio that on the old app, or the old build, this action behaved correctly. The developer actually says, I tested it out on the old build to see what happens on the old app.
Right. And just to clarify, a build in this context is basically today's draft of the application.
Okay, like a rough draft.
Yeah, it's the raw code compiled into a usable piece of software that the team can actually play around with on their phones. So testing old builds against new builds is this foundational methodology. It's meant to isolate variables.
Because if it worked yesterday but doesn't work today,
Exactly. If a feature works in version A, but catastrophically fails in version B, you know the culprit is hiding somewhere in the new code you just introduced during your latest work sprint.
but the testing process here does not go smoothly at all.
No, it does not.
The developer tries the exact same action on the new version of the app, and he says, it just lets me join, and then abruptly he just says, it just closed.
It just closed. I mean, those are some of the most terrifying words you can hear during a product review.
Wait, really? Just it closed?
Oh, yeah. Because what we're witnessing is not a graceful error. When the app tries to load a transition screen that simply doesn't exist in the code, it is looking for memory that isn't there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So in software architecture, if a program hits a null like an absolute void, the operating system instantly kills the application to prevent a larger system failure.
So the phone itself just steps in and shuts it down.
Exactly. That abrupt drop is actually a built-in safety mechanism by the phone itself.
That makes so much sense of the abruptness in his voice. Because you expect an error message, right? Like a little spinning wheel or a warning pop-up telling you something went wrong.
Right, a polite little please try again later.
Yeah. But hitting that absolute void,
Yeah.
it's like opening the front door to a beautifully painted new house, stepping inside and immediately falling straight into the basement because nobody remembered to build the floor yet. You just drop into the abyss.
That is exactly it. There is no safety net within the app's own logic. The application simply ceases to exist in the user's active memory. And that sudden, unceremonious drop into the basement triggers the next phase of their crisis.
Because the team doesn't just sit quietly and fix the code.
Oh, definitely not.
The crash instantly sparks this really tense internal debate. We move away from the mechanisms of a technical glitch, and suddenly we are neck deep in human communication, fault, and honestly, the actual philosophy of what makes an error an error.
What's fascinating here is that this specific exchange surfaces a debate that software developers fight about every single day.
Which is what?
What exactly defines a bug? Immediately following the crash, one team member throws down the gauntlet and calls it exactly that. He says, "That's a bug. That's a brand new bug."
But another voice instantly pushes back. And this is an exact quote from the transcript. They say, because is it a bug if we just didn't tell them to do that, though?
Right. We are hearing the tension between an error of commission and an error of omission.
Okay, unpack that a little.
Well, the person pushing back is arguing a literal, almost philosophical point about computer science. This is the great secret of software development. A computer will confidently execute a terrible idea.
It just does what it's told.
Exactly. It doesn't know right from wrong. It only knows instructed versus not instructed. If the engineers were never explicitly told to code a transition screen when someone joins a new room, the app crashing is, technically speaking, doing exactly what it was programmed to do.
Which is nothing.
Right. It hits a dead end and it shuts down. To that developer, the code isn't failing. The communication failed.
Wait, hold on. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because are you letting the engineer off the hook here?
Well, it's not about letting them off the hook.
But as a developer, shouldn't they have the foresight to build a failsafe rather than just letting the app crash because a designer forgot a mock-up? I mean, if I'm building a car and someone forgets to tell me to put in brakes, I don't just build a car that accelerates until it hits a wall. I stop and ask for the brakes.
That is the logical assumption, yeah. But it ignores the reality of how modern software teams operate. In a vacuum, sure, defensive programming is the gold standard. You anticipate them missing breaks.
Right.
But these engineers are operating under intense deadlines within what we call ticket-driven development.
Ticket-driven development.
Oh, yeah. So developers pull tasks from a tracking system, and they are incentivized to execute exactly what is written on that specific ticket. Nothing more and nothing less.
Wow, so it creates tunnel vision.
Complete tunnel vision.
Yeah.
If the ticket doesn't say build a warning screen, they don't build it. They assume the product manager or the designer intentionally left it out.
That is wild. And the audio perfectly captures that fractured communication. We hear this incredibly confusing back and forth about whether a warning screen was actually requested at all.
Yeah, it gets pretty heated.
One person insists, you didn't create a screen for this.
Yeah.
And the other fires back, yes, I did. Then someone else chimes in with probably the most chaotic line in the whole thing, saying, that was in the audio.
Relying on an audio message for software requirements is just an absolute nightmare for version control.
I can imagine.
They are searching for the single source of truth-like, the original requirement. And discovering it isn't documented in a formal ticket at all. It is scattered across transient conversations or voice notes.
But while this whole philosophical debate about ticket-driven development and voice notes is happening on the developer side, we really have to think about the people actually using the product.
The users, right?
Yeah, like, does the user care whose fault it is? If I am using this app and I try to join a room and the whole thing just vanishes from my screen, I don't care if the product manager forgot to write a ticket.
No, of course not.
Or if the designer forgot a screen, or if the engineer made a typo. From the user's perspective, a missing requirement and a coding error are the exact same thing, a broken app.
Precisely. The user does not experience your organizational chart, you know? They experience your product. They experience the end result of all your miscommunications.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And the team in this transcript seems to realize this fairly quickly. To be fair, they don't linger on the blame game forever.
Right, because they've realized they have a philosophical difference. But the clock is ticking. You can't ship a philosophical debate to the App Store.
No, Apple won't approve that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The system is crashing, which forces them to instantly pivot from philosophers to basically EMTs. So how do they actually stop the bleeding here?
Well, they construct the intended behavior on the fly. They realize that when a user is leaving an active room to join a new one, state management becomes a massive issue.
State management.
Yeah, meaning you can't just close a room if that specific user is the one running it. A notification needs to pop up first.
Oh, I see.
So they specifically outline the text right then and there. They say it needs to ask, are you sure you want to close this room? And importantly, it needs to prompt the user to choose a new moderator for this room.
Because if the person leaving was in charge, leaving the old room leaderless creates a whole cascade of other glitches for the remaining users.
Exactly. It would just break the room for everyone else.
So they figure out the intended behavior, someone declares it a, quote, high priority, and they immediately draft someone named Andy into the war room.
Poor Andy.
Seriously. Someone just barks an order, they say, check your phone, Andy, get a screenshot of the old app, and Andy replies, I got it, and then they tell him, send that to the bug.
Yeah, send that to the bug.
Right. So what does this all mean? Because when they say send it to the bug, my brain immediately goes to a literal insect. But mechanically, in a fast-paced sprint like this, how does a screenshot actually solve the problem faster than just telling the developer what to do?
It's a great question. Basically, a screenshot cuts through the ambiguity of verbal communication. In agile development, when they say the bug, they are referring to a specific digital file in their tracking software.
Ah, okay. The ticket itself.
Right. That file needs to become the new source of truth. Text descriptions can be misinterpreted. I mean, we just heard them argue over an audio note earlier.
Yeah, that didn't go well.
But visual evidence provides an undeniable target. By attaching a screenshot of the old functioning application to the bug ticket, they are establishing a UI state.
A user interface state.
Yes, they are giving the engineer an exact visual blueprint to replicate, completely removing the guesswork of what the missing screen is supposed to look like.
It operates just like a forensic sketch artist.
That is exactly what it is.
Like, the app is crashing, the environment is chaotic, the building is on fire, and Andy is standing there, looking at the old version of the app, frantically capturing exactly what the missing screen looked like so the engineers can go hunt down the problem. He is locking down the evidence before the old build disappears or gets overwritten.
Capturing that visual state is totally forensic work, and you can actually feel the team settling into a rhythm once they establish this visual target.
They calm down a bit.
They do. They even start refining the specific text for the prompt together, saying, it'll be that same caption of whatever I wrote, and we have to tell them when you join a new room to put that. They are actively designing the patch in real time.
So the fire is being put out. Listening to this part, it sounds like a really productive, highly focused, incredibly standard internal engineering meeting.
It really does, until the entire context of the recording completely flips on its head.
Oh man, the tone completely shifts here. Listening to the raw audio, I actually felt a knot in my stomach because you suddenly realize this wasn't an internal Zoom call at all.
Not even close.
Just as they are getting a handle on this high-priority bug, we get the twist ending that reveals why we even have this transcript to begin with.
The ending is remarkably abrupt. Right in the middle of a sentence about the new room transition, the speaker suddenly stops.
Just dead in his track.
The professional problem solving just evaporates. He says, oh, I'm sorry, guys. Let me get out of here. Y'all getting some sauce. Sorry, I was in... And the audio file just cuts out. Y'all getting some sauce. I mean, that line shatters the illusion we've had this entire time. It does. This meta-context redefines the entire transcript we just listened to. The speaker wasn't just talking to his team. The use of guys and y'all confirms he had a live audience.
Wow.
He was likely screen sharing or live streaming on the platform itself. There's this huge trend in tech right now of building in public where founders show off upcoming features to a group of early adopters or fans to build hype.
And he completely forgot his microphone was hot.
He had no idea.
It's like a teacher who is venting about their students in an empty classroom, right?
Yeah.
Saying, oh, Timmy's driving me crazy today. He never does his homework. And then they look up and realize the microphone connecting to the entire school's PA system is still on and echoing down the hallways.
That is exactly the feeling.
The absolute horror of realizing the public is listening to your private mess.
It is a massive breach of the polished facade. He just broadcasted a hard crash, an internal argument about who forgot to design a screen, unreleased feature details about choosing room moderators, and the frantic triage process to the very people who are supposed to view this application as an infinitely stable piece of magic.
And the slang he uses, getting some sauce, captures the panic perfectly.
Yeah, what does that mean to you?
Well, he knows he just leaked the secret recipe. The messy kitchen wasn't just left open. He accidentally aimed a live camera right at the chef, dropping the steak on the floor and screaming about it.
Right, exactly.
It's an admission of leaking juicy behind-the-scenes drama. Y'all getting some sauce.
It is a frantic apology and a confession rolled into one. It serves as the climax of the audio, and it leaves us with an incredible snapshot of a development team caught totally off guard, suddenly realizing their private crisis is public entertainment.
So in just a few lines of transcribed audio, we journeyed from a fundamental software crash into a philosophical debate over who is to blame for a missing screen, navigated the frantic triage process with Andy playing forensic sketch artist, and ended up with the horrifying realization of an open mic broadcast.
It completely pulls back the curtain on the human element of technology.
Yeah.
You know, we think of our devices as these cold, logical machines executing perfect mathematical instructions.
Yeah. You really do.
But this deep dive proves how much invisible, chaotic human negotiation is hiding right behind the sleek glass screens of the apps you interact with every single day. Every button you press, every screen that transitions smoothly is the result of a conversation, an argument, or a frantic last-minute fix just like this one.
So the next time you're tapping away on your phone and an app abruptly closes and drops you into the basement, don't just get mad at the machine. Ask yourself, are you experiencing a glitch in the cold, hard code, or are you just stumbling over the ghost of a messy human conversation that a team of developers forgot to have?
The line between a broken line of code and a broken line of communication is, well, it's thinner than we ever want to admit.
It really is. We'll see you on the next deep dive.